The Ottawa County, Oklahoma Sheriff says jail damage by inmates is costing taxpayers.
The House is set to vote on legislation to create an independent commission to investigate the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. I'm Skylar Henry with the details and the Republican pushback.
And what the latest research says about breast cancer and COVID.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Officials in Ottawa County say jail damage by inmates is costing taxpayers. This is KOAM News at 5. In recent weeks, inmates have caused thousands of dollars worth of damage, they say. That includes broken windows from a riot last month, fire damage to the ceiling in a jail pod, destroyed mattresses, and a shower ripped out of a jail pod. The sheriff says they recently hired more jailers and they hope to make more upgrades.
We're shooting for at least 4 per shift. And that way we can really, if something's happening in one pod, we still got people that can respond to anything else that might be going on.
We're going to hear more about the issues and the sheriff's response tonight at 6. Kansas City University Joplin is Joplin's first medical school. It's something positive that emerged from one of the worst days in the city's history. The school is built upon a tent city that took the place of St. John's Hospital after it was destroyed by the tornado. Many who stepped in to help 10 years ago have ties to this medical school that sits in the very spot where they worked.
But they set up a tent, and then the next iteration of the hospital was basically some trailers that they put together. And we occupied the trailers for a while, and then they brought in from California a prefabricated building that became the structure that is the medical school now.
Tonight at 6, we're going to hear how the Joplin tornado inspired 2 people in Joplin to work in the medical field and serve the community. 100 years ago this month, Tulsa, Oklahoma was the scene of one of the worst race massacres in U.S. history. A white mob killed unknown numbers of black residents and burned their homes and businesses. Today, survivors and descendants of victims are testifying before lawmakers on Capitol Hill, discussing possible legal remedies and compensation. Those testifying include a 107-year-old survivor.
I hear the screams. I have lived through the massacre every day. Our country may forget this history, but I cannot.
Researchers say for years efforts were made to purge reference to the massacre from the public record. We're going to have much more on this story tonight at 6. Checking in with Nick Kelly now for a first look at the weather. Nick.
Good evening, Dal. And as advertised, more rain working in. It's been firing up since we started the afternoon. The prevalent rain now is not really much on the Missouri side. We do have some light showers trying to sneak up to the I-44 corridor in southwestern Missouri, but across northeast Oklahoma, including in southeast Kansas, this is a good band of moderate to occasionally heavy rainfall and maybe a couple rumbles of thunder. Nothing severe. We're still not expecting that as these rain chances continue for the rest of the evening, but it's all because our stubborn upper level low still sitting out in the panhandles, but it will be on the move as we go throughout the course of the evening and certainly over the next few days. Temperatures right now mainly in the lower 70s, so certainly much cooler than we were yesterday. Fall to 71 by 6, into the upper 60s by midnight, and we'll only drop back into the mid 60s. So it is going to be a mild night once again, Dow, with rain chances to track, and we'll see if we can taper those off for the weekend here in just a bit.
All right, we'll see you then. Thanks, Nick. Joplin Schifferdecker Pool opened for business last summer despite the pandemic, and it'll soon open again. The city says the pool will open Saturday, May 29th, Labor Day weekend. Joplin says, like many cities, it's experiencing a lifeguard shortage, so Schifferdecker is the only Joplin pool scheduled to open to the public. However, Ewart and Cunningham Aquatic Centers will host various summer programs such as swim lessons. Democrats are pushing forward with a plan for a bipartisan commission to look into the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. But while the bill was created with bipartisan efforts, it does not have widespread Republican support. Reporter Skylar Henry has details from Capitol Hill.
The House is expected to vote for a new 9/11-style commission to investigate the January 6th assault on the U.S. Capitol.
We're very proud of our bipartisan bill that will come to the floor and be passed today in the House.
Some Republicans are expected to join Democrats in passing the bill, but GOP leadership urged members to vote no.
We're not prepared at this time to provide, huge support for this bill. We think it can continue to improve.
The legislation met opposition after Republican and Democratic negotiators struck a deal for equal power on the commission.
The distinguished minority leader sent a letter to Speaker Pelosi asking for an equal 5-5 ratio in apportionment and appointments by Democrats and Republicans on this commission. He got it. He asked for co-equal subpoena power. He got it.
Some Republicans want to expand the commission to look at other political violence and demonstrations, including last summer's racial justice protests.
If we truly hope to find answers to the American people, then we must take into account everything, all of the other political violence that's taken place in recent years.
Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell announced he too is opposed to the January 6th commission, saying it's just not needed.
It's not at all clear what new facts or additional investigation yet another commission could actually lay on top of existing efforts by law enforcement and Congress.
But Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says he will bring the bill up for a vote on the Senate floor.
We'll see where our Republican friends stand, if they stand with truth or they stand with the big lie and sweeping truth under the rug, which is so un-American.
Wednesday afternoon, the FBI released more videos of the attack, asking for public tips to help identify people taking part in the assault. Skyler Henry, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
More than 2,000 Guard members have been providing additional security on Capitol Hill since the January 6th insurrection. Israeli warplanes pounded the Gaza Strip overnight, killing at least 6 people. Despite growing international calls for a ceasefire, Israel's military says it has widened its strikes on Hamas militants to stop them from launching more rockets into Israeli territory. Just ahead, cancer therapy during the pandemic.
New research on chemotherapy and the risk of COVID. I'm Fami Redwood with the details of a new study.
And later, student innovators.
City.com.
A U.S. task force lowers the recommended age to start routine screenings for colorectal cancer. Members of the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force now say screening should begin at age 45 rather than the previously recommended age of 50. The task force made the move due to more and more young people being diagnosed with colon and rectal cancer in recent years. Colorectal cancer is currently the 3rd deadliest cancer for Americans, claiming about 50,000 lives annually. New research is reassuring for breast cancer patients receiving chemo during the pandemic. A new study finds that life-saving treatment does not increase the risk of COVID-19 infection or death. Reporter Fami Redwood introduces us to a woman who's been battling breast cancer while trying to stay safe from COVID.
TRICIA VERTUCCI has been fighting breast cancer this past year. The 46-year-old mother had a double mastectomy and started 16 rounds of chemotherapy just before COVID hit. Her essential worker husband moved out to keep her safe.
It was really scary. It really was. And then, God forbid, I got COVID. That's why my husband had to go live somewhere else. My immune system was shot between all the chemo and just, the surgery 3 months prior to that.
There have been concerns that treatments like chemotherapy could make patients more vulnerable to the coronavirus. Now, a new NYU Langone health study shows breast cancer patients treated with chemo do not have an increased risk for COVID-19 infection compared to patients who had other treatments.
We also found that patients who contracted COVID-19 who had previously received chemotherapy did not have a higher mortality rate.
Dr. Douglas Marks led the study of more than 3,000 breast cancer patients treated at the height of the pandemic. Older and overweight patients had a higher risk of dying from COVID.
The risk factors that have been identified in the general population still hold true. And so when counseling a patient, we still have to be mindful of their general medical conditions.
After chemo, TRICIA had 6 months of radiation and some reconstructive surgeries.
I'm getting back to being a whole again and feeling good about myself again. I could not have gone through this without my family and my friends. And I come out on the other side learning that I'm very strong.
She's looking forward to taking a vacation and starting a new job. Fami Redwood, CBS News, New York.
Researchers say this study is believed to be the first to look at whether breast cancer therapies can affect COVID-19 infection and death risk. A new study looks at the link between blood pressure and dementia. Global researchers found that for women, high blood pressure increased risk. But for men, both low and high blood pressure were associated with increased risk. Scientists say figuring out why there are gender differences could lead to better treatments. That is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, our pet vet on call.
Hi, I'm Dr. Eva Dudek from Parsons Pet Hospital. Coming up, we've got an animal fun fact about horses.
Plus, I'm tracking more rain chances for tonight. We'll see if we can dry things out for the weekend. Up next.
.com.
Another day where we have to track periods of rain and even some thunderstorms across the region. So Skywatch Storm Tracker was busy once again since late last night, keeping an eye on a few scattered showers and even a couple of thunderstorms to start the morning out. Maybe most of you a little bit drier during the late morning hours, but once we got into the afternoon, we saw more scattered rain and storms really get together across parts of southeast Kansas. So just from last night and today alone so far, all the accumulating rainfall seems to be on the Kansas and Oklahoma side, and on the average 0.2 of an inch, but we see some heavier pockets now where we were pushing about an inch, if not over that, because that's been the likely corridor, or the most favorable corridor for the plentiful rainfall so far to stream in from south to north, with more rain developing to the south. But in the meantime, we've got a thin corridor of light rain along the I-44 corridor, stretching from Springfield to Joplin and to about downstream. But so far, the heaviest returns I see, along with maybe a couple random lightning strikes, is in southeast Kansas, from Garnett down to Iola, Humboldt, Chanute, Erie, St. Paul, Parsons, and even working back down to even, let's say, close to Bartlesville. And this has made an impact on temperatures. We were warm, pushing near 80, in fact, topping at 80 yesterday afternoon. We dropped back into the lower to middle 60s this morning, and so far, I think the warmest we've gone so far was the mid 70s. So definitely a little bit cooler today, but still a bit warm. We're dry here at the station, 73 in Joplin, a southeast breeze at 16, gusting to 25, so it's been a bit windier compared to the past few days. Most of us in the lower 70s right now, and it's going to be a very slow drop off for the evening. Upper 60s by 8 o'clock, and we're going to hold mainly in the mid 60s as we go through the overnight, with cloud cover and some rain chances to keep an eye on as they continue to develop and try to pull in from the south. At the surface, our stubborn front has started to fall apart, so now we're just focusing on this cold front well to the northwest. That, however, won't come into play until the middle of next week. So for the short term, our weather will be driven by this stubborn upper level low, but look at this upper level ridge building off toward the east. This is going to eat away at our rain chances somewhat as we go toward this weekend, while that keeps us warm. So we'll keep an eye on those scattered rain and even a couple of thunderstorm chances going into tonight. Maybe a break in the action as we head toward the morning drive as lows drop back into the mid 60s. But like today, we'll see scattered rain and thunderstorms again to take us through the rest of the day. So let's go, mid 60s in the morning, and then we'll top back out around 77, 78 degrees for tomorrow. Maybe a break Thursday night going into Friday. Then we'll see another bout of scattered rain and thunderstorms that in the end could bring another ½ an inch to 2 inches across parts of the area. Now let's take it to the weekend. 80 on Friday with some scattered storms. Saturday, we do start to improve, but I think there could still be a few thunderstorms in the forecast, mainly during the morning hours, and then the thunderstorms shift to the west throughout the day as we see highs top out around 80. Even though the storm chances might be there, not looking at anything severe, so that is good. 79 on Sunday, 81 on Monday. Any good chances for strong to severe weather now? Fortunately, we'll hold off until the middle of next week.
That's one good thing for sure. Thanks, Nick. Just had the creations of some young innovators during the pandemic. First, though, we recognize a local veteran of the U.S. Air Force. Cherryville, Kansas native Leo DeMoss served from 1952 to 1973. Was stationed in both Korea and Thailand. Master Sergeant Leo DeMoss, a four-state hero. More retailers are dropping mask mandates. Macy's no longer requires but recommends vaccinated customers wear face coverings in stores. Best Buy, Lowe's, Home Depot, and BJ's all made similar changes to their mask policies. Amazon is extending its ban on police use of its facial recognition technology. The ban went into effect about a year ago. Last June, Amazon said it hoped Congress would pass laws to guide appropriate use of the technology. The pandemic sent most of America's students home and online for at least a time, but it also inspired many to solve pandemic and social justice problems using technology. Elise Preston introduces us to students from around the country getting national recognition for their engineering innovations.
This bright tablet prototype shows how isolated seniors can connect to games and online conversation with ease. Students at Porter High School outside of Houston, Texas, developed this app and raised money to send 17 tablets to nursing home residents.
GenBridge has really allowed us to see the individuals behind the word elder.
The teenagers pitched their work to the judges in Samsung's Solve for Tomorrow competition, which challenges middle and high schoolers to use STEM to tackle real-world problems.
I'm hoping it spans the nation and that all this isolation-induced depression gets eliminated or at least reduced by a great margin.
Samsung's Ann Wu oversees the annual competition.
It's so inspiring to be able to work with young people across the country. They have so many bright ideas and such passion to change the world.
Students at Northwest Pennsylvania Collegiate Academy came up with their project after watching Black Lives Matter protests unfold in their city.
At some point in the evening, the protest evolved into a riot and police came out in force in full riot gear.
The students developed a voice-activated app that records police interactions. They hope it will be useful during protests and traffic stops.
We're allowing people of color and other people to have evidence to back themselves up in case of an altercation with the police.
As national winners, both teams will receive $130,000 worth of Samsung technology. But the students say it's about more than prize money and bragging rights on their college applications.
This project actually made me realize that STEM was a lot more accessible to people than I actually thought.
Access they hope will inspire others to also make a difference. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
A third team, Hope of Detroit, developed an app to report and track neighborhoods that need to be cleaned up. This is the 11th year for Samsung's Solve for Tomorrow competition. Our Pet Vet on Call, next. The CBS Evening News is next. Then on KOAM News at 6, reporter Bronte Sorotsky examines how the Joplin tornado 10 years ago helped lead to the creation of the medical school now in Joplin and inspired future medical professionals. And reporter Zach Dodge looks at the expense of damage caused by inmates at the Ottawa County Jail and what the Sheriff's Department is trying to do about that. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. Tracing backward along evolutionary trees can lead to some findings that might surprise you. Today, our Pet Vet on Call has a fun fact for us about horses.
I think everybody knows that horses have one hoof on each foot. But when they first started to develop on the evolutionary tree, they actually had toes. 4 toes on the front foot, 3 toes on the back. And as they grew over the years, they developed into that one wonderful big fat hoof.
There you go. If you have a question, maybe it's about a weird habit of your pet or a health concern or a fun fact about horses, just send it to PetVet@KOAMTV.com. Dr. Eva Dudek from the Parsons Pet Hospital answers a different question or brings us a fun fact every Wednesday on KOAM News at 5. Now our picks of the litter for the week. From the Joplin Humane Society, we've chosen a male Labrador Retriever mix named Atlas. And from the Southeast Kansas Humane Society, this beautiful female short-haired cat named Vienna. If you're looking for a pet, remember you ought to at least check out your local Humane Society. They always have a lot of great options. Checking in with Nick Kelly, more rain in the forecast.
Yeah, certainly for this evening, Dow, for a good number of us. We'll try and see if we can get a break during the overnight, but more rain, more scattered thunderstorm chances tomorrow and Friday as highs push back eventually near 80. Some scattered storms still possible Saturday, but we'll be drying out through the day and not seeing anything severe. Anything strong to severe holds off until the middle of next week.
Thanks, Nick, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you at 6. Let's take care of ourselves and each other.